Hey, this video is for Dominic's younger sister on how to avoid overthinking. So, overthinking. Step one. Are you thinking one thing again and again and again? Okay, set it down, right? Right? What are you thinking in particular? If you're thinking one thing over and over and over again, that's either because you have some sort of cognitive dissonance. Wait, let me put you in my mouth. Some sort of cognitive dissonance with it, or you're just trying to find what you're supposed to be thinking about. Prioritize. It might not be that you disagree with what you're thinking right now, but you're trying to find the first step for the rest of your life, right? Or whatever like that. Whatever your problem is, if it's a big problem, if it's a bunch of small problems, right? Second step is look at it in multiple ways, and not just in multiple ways like, oh, I'm looking at it this way and that way. You have to look at it multiple contradictory ways at once. So you have to say it's either this or it's that, and if it's not this, it's that, and etc. So this applies to really anything. Feelings, what you should do, your expectations. And to an extent, you can't really think through everything because you don't know what you will think. So that can also be a component of overthinking, is trying to predict what you will think. Okay, here's a big hill. I'm gonna put you in. Fuck. Sorry, curse words. So, what is necessary for finding every situation? That's a good question. Because you can't necessarily analyze every variable. And you shouldn't necessarily analyze every variable. Because if you're going to analyze if you're going to analyze, I got these Dippin' Dots, and I got 16,777,216 Dippin' Dots versus 16,700,217, that's not relevant. So you should avoid too much mystical thinking, because mystical thinking can be overthinking, and it's trying to use it as a sort of ritual, as societies have these objects they call fetishes, right? Like a rabbit's foot. Oh god, that was a toss. We have stuff like rabbit's foot for luck, and so you can hold these stuff, right, and say it, but you should only say it as much as it's useful. Stuff like prayer and stuff, do it as much as it helps you. But prayer, is just one aspect of that. Then there's also, other myths we have, like, who am I? Am I this person or that person? Which is another myth, because we don't know, if personality is a real thing, or if it's something that comes from the byproduct of people observing me, and they're like, why are you making that video? Right? And stuff like that, which is irrelevant, who cares if I'm making this video? I'll run them off the road. Oh God. So, the third step, what to think, right? What to think to kind of address every scenario. And this is every scenario, as Dominic said, in terms of the problem, or it doesn't have to be a problem, a situation, person, thing, event, opportunity that you're thinking of. And you think about it with respect to like everything else, yourself, other people, other opportunities. But then you also say, you know, I'm not good at thinking, you know, so if I think, oh, but what if other opportunities came along? That is a bit of a myth, right? That is you saying, oh, another opportunity could come along. It could, but will it? That's a question. So you can look at opportunity in a certain way, but you have to know that unpredictability is predictable in a way. So, you know, like say my problem was that I'm a hypochondriac, or I'm an apocalyptic thinker, I'm a prepper, doomsday prepper. Then how would I think to sort of get over that, right? I would think, well, you know, we might all be doomed, but, you know, me knowing about this doesn't really change too much, because, you know, I mean, I guess it changes some stuff. This is a bad example. Anyway, step 4, quickly change. Be able to say, haha, that's stupid, that's dumb, you know? But be able to have multiple opinions about what you say. You can make fun of yourself and take yourself seriously at the same time about the same thing. Like, I'm currently making a video on the bike, and that's stupid, really stupid, but it's also kind of impressive that I'm able to make this video while like breathing. Not really, but you know, like I need credit for something, okay? Anyway, step 5, right? Okay, thinking hurts my brain, right? You know, thinking hurts my brain, but I'm just like a masochist. Like, that's why I'm making this video, right? Because I'm like, oh, it's funny. It would be funny if I made a video while biking, then I'd be out of breath. It would be so funny. Then I'd have to put my phone in my pocket multiple times and they probably wouldn't even hear me, right? But that shows, right, that there's a certain sort of optimization that comes along with ideas, right? So, in trying to, let's say it's like a painting. You're thinking of a painting, like, oh, I want to draw a dog, or oh, I want to draw a man, right? You may have visualized that dog or man badly, but you can't always, you know, sort of like revise and revise and revise. There has to be a sort of feedback loop between your fantasy and reality, between your head and the outside world, right? So, in this respect, you have to sort of be done thinking, which is a valuable thing because you have to realize that when it comes to algorithms in your head, and when it comes to addressing every single situation, you have to realize that in a practical, real-life scenario, you can't address everything. You address stuff naturally, like, right? And furthermore, there is, as I was saying earlier, a sort of battle between efficiency and productivity. So say efficiency, right? Imagine like a machine, an automating machine, and it can do like very specific things, but you know, it can't do everything. So this is efficiency versus productivity. And in terms of thinking, you got to be able to, you know, really like do what I'm doing with my legs on this hill. You got to press into it. You can't sort of be too automatic like that, because while that might get results quickly, you might not want results. This is another thing with overthinking, is that sometimes with overthinking you don't actually want results. It's just an avoidance strategy. So instead of that, you should not search for a negation of like what you don't want to happen. Well, it's windy. Look, I'm gonna put you in my pocket. I'm not gonna die. I'm not gonna die. What? It's not going. So you should not search for a negation of all your problems. You should search for the optimization of all your solutions. So like Dominic said, do something that you like, right? Bam, 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 bam. Yeah. This hill ain't shit. This hill ain't shit. Whoa! Oh, God. So, if you're feeling like cringy or whatever, you shouldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna be the least cringe I can be. You should be like, okay, I'm gonna be the most me I can be without being cringe. I mean cringe. Another hill. Ah, shit. Sorry for saying everything there. So, then, what does this mean? It means being true to yourself. Not necessarily all of yourself, because who wants to do that? But, framing your problem, not in terms of desperation, but in terms of representation. So then, in these terms, instead of seeing it as, oh, I'm gonna miss an opportunity, you see it as a learning experience, where instead of saying, oh, I want to avoid this or that scenario, people get mad at me, or stuff like that, you're like, so don't form things in terms of what you don't want to happen. Form things in terms of what you do want to happen, because you can't cause something not to happen. That's not how it works. You can cause something to happen. Causing something not to happen is trying to control things that are outside of your control. Oh, I'm on a bike. That's obvious, Harry. Oh, you're on a bike. And step 6 with avoiding overthinking is move. So when you're moving and when you're acting, you can't be overthinking. Now, of course, there's a sweet spot between this and being compulsive, but we find also at the same time that overthinking is itself compulsive. So by moving and acting, you don't need to like run 6 billion marathons or become president of the United States. But you can just sort of say, okay, so I'm feeling like this. Let's do this and that and the other thing. And then, let's see. So movement helps a lot, because movement, like, I feel a lot less, like, anxious when I'm moving. Because when you're moving, you're occupied with moving. And what is thought but just, like, movement inside your head of electrons? And also at the same time, for thought, imagine it as kind of like a cereal. You know how, like, cereal kind of, when you pour the last of it, it's hard to fall out. Imagine running as, like, when you take out the bag and, like, open up all the stops, intentionally. So the truth with overthinking, I'm in my house now, so I can't be loud. Wait, I have to get that orange soda. I'm sorry. The truth with overthinking is that sometimes you have when there's like a smoothie or something and you haven't quite like blended it up. So they say plan to fail. Fail to plan to fail, right? But then I'd add something to that where I'd say plan to fail to plan to fail. I'd add something like this is kind of perfect. Plan to fail. And plan to fail at planning. So if you plan to fail at planning, then when you go to planning, you've already failed. Something like that. So tell a story. Don't make it about, that or this. You kind of can externalize where planning, if it's about something, it's naturally going to be boring because it's like doing something but not actually doing it. It's like when your teacher is sort of like, it's like when you have like tutorials in video games and it's like so boring. So, any situation you can replicate to an extent. And planning doesn't really get at it. So, to be really in a mindset for planning, you have to like not be in a mindset for planning. It's kind of like, imagine, when you have the perfect plan, right? What comes through your head? You're like, Mom, spaghetti. Did I turn off the stove? And other stuff like that. So what people will find with like any problem, whether it's physical, mental, or a combination of both, or social or whatever, is that you might get distracted, you might get out of your game, right? But you really just have to be kind of immersed, if not in that problem, then in something else. So this is kind of how I do most stuff, is sort of, you have to find the immersion in it. So if you're thinking, there has to be a story to it. And you can be able to like say, oh, well, I'm just gonna throw this away, and kind of imagine yourself as like a different person. Because usually, the advice of others is more helpful because it has less, but, because this, I can't do that. What's that? It's a dust bunny. Then 9 or 10 or whatever number I'm on would be for avoiding overthinking. Just make it a vibe, like a whole vibe. Oh god, something came up. Make it a whole vibe. Make it just like, if you're overthinking about something, just kind of like step back, because thinking is behavior, right? And think, okay, how am I feeling right now? And sort of go into that feeling, say, okay, why am I feeling this? Is this out of my control or in my control? And then just kind of like suspend in that, right? And sort of say, this is a vibe or something like that. I guess we all have like triggers or whatever, but as far as just saying, there's a space where we think in our heads. I believe this because it applies to me, but it could not apply to others possibly, where we're kind of like letting the thoughts pass by. So you can occupy that space by different things. Like people say like meditation and stuff like that. But at some level you have to like realize, me being myself, that's kind of arbitrary. I could be like any other person. It's just that you don't really like react that way. And you sometimes say, oh, I wouldn't want to react that way. You sort of see it as like outside your role. Like you're Benedict Cumberbatch, and that guy is the guy in Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man. I don't know his name. But this is all, the perfect is the enemy of the good, so you can just kind of imitate. But then it's getting a bit abstract what I'm saying right there. Then as far as like being in a productive mindset, how do you get into a productive mindset with thinking and with your goals and with forming goals and like doing new things? Is by you go into like the suspended mindset and the emotion that you're feeling. Then you say, okay, but then imagine like someone just like changes the channel, right? You say, okay, I'm feeling this right now, and it's kind of like persisting, like, oh, I feel this, 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 over and over and over. But then imagine, say, you're kind of suspended in this feeling, right? Then imagine you just like do something, and then you feel a different way, right? And so then resist this sort of, resistance towards that, which is, it sounds contradictory, but I'm saying like resist your need to resist doing something, or, not doing something. So this can apply both to, not doing something, because it can mean sort of refraining from like unhelpful thought processes, and it can mean doing something, because it can mean, asking for help, or, framing your problem with respect to other problems in your life, or it can mean like a bunch of other things. It can mean just like having fun and like doing something new, playing something on the guitar, or like talking to a friend or something like that. And think of how you're feeling right now and realize this is part of your thinking, right? Or that you're feeling this, and that you justify that like, oh, I feel like this, and there's a certain attachment to feeling. And then say, okay, so I'm feeling this that way and the other way, and I could feel another way, but I don't really feel like it. God, this video. But then just go like, okay, but then like feel the other way, you know? Because what we resist with negativity, because we see it as negative, just creates more negativity. So you just have to go towards what you perceive as negative, but isn't really all that negative, and like do that, and don't like Caesar said, or whoever said that, or Machiavelli, don't procrastinate, because you can just like wham bam, you're done. And then, you know, this is with anything, wham bam, you're done. There's very little consequences to most things you do that isn't like cursing someone out or like something like that, you know, like talking to someone or whatever, you know, and you think, oh, they're gonna have this reaction or they're gonna think like that, but most people think mainly about themselves. So, you know, when you talk to them, they're gonna be like, is there something in my teeth? That's gonna be their first thought. Their first thought isn't gonna be like, oh, they're so stupid. I hate this person. You know, it's gonna be, do I have something on my forehead? Or it's gonna be, oh, I need to get home and eat that chicken pot pie, right? But, you know, they're still gonna be polite to you, because if they're like polite people, you know, and you can get into that back and forth, and then you've transmutated one feeling to another. So the step 10 is basically saying, realize that thinking isn't really, you know, linear. You can be thinking one thing, right, in one train of thought, right? But then you sleep, you wake up, and you're like, oh, I'm fine, you know, I feel good. And this happens even day to day, or hour to hour, minute to minute, because you have things that are on top of your mind. You think they're very important, but then they go away. You try to sort of maybe, you know, make it stay, because you think, oh, it's important to focus on important things. But it's also important to realize that if things are important, they won't suddenly go away because you stop thinking of them, right? Because if they just went away, then that means it was just a distraction. Or else maybe you did forget to turn off the stove, and then it blew up. That's your fault. You're homeless. Yeah, that basically covers it. Yeah. So long, Space Cowboy. Da 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 da.